Hey folks, today we're covering Tinto Talks 69, and this is going to be on the Italian Wars and the Guelphs and Ghibellines. I think that's how you pronounce it. As always, probably mixing it up a little bit. And they're going to start with those two factions first. So some of you may remember the shadow event incident in EU4, where the Emperor races to keep the Italian countries inside the HRE. However, 1 century earlier, because obviously this game does start earlier than EU4, the political landscape of Italy is very different, with two main political factions fighting for roughly 200 years, and that is the Guelphs, the defender of the Pope, and the Ghibellines, who support the imperial power of the HRE. So they're the two sides, the Holy Roman Empire on one side and then the Pope on the other side as well. And you can see in this first screenshot here the political landscape of Italy. The two sides have been fighting for dominance over Italy for multiple centuries since the investiture controversy pitted the Pope against the HRE, and then there's one option in this. Interesting times are ahead of us, and obviously there's going to be a lot of interesting things around the Pope during the time frame of this game, but this is the first one that you really encounter if you are playing in Italy, or if you are remotely aligned with this area, as we will discover later on. So in this situation, it is possible to align with the Papal States or the HRE in their struggle for dominance over Italy. And then you can see the first faction here. It is using the international organization system. Monthly prestige 0.05 if you're the leader. Being a member of this gives clergy and burgher estate satisfaction equilibrium modifiers. And then excluded from imperial protection, yes, because obviously you're going against the HRE, so you're not going to be getting the benefit of the Emperor's Grace in this regard. So can you invite new members? Yes, so you can add additional people to this. And then you can see the Kingdom of Naples, the Papal States, and then a bunch of other members that are on this side at the moment. And then you can see the international organization screen next. Very similar information. You can see the members with all their flags. You can see the current leader of this, which is King Robert of Anjou. And then in the next screenshot, they're going to show us the first of many maps they're going to show us today. This is the Guelph side of this conflict, of this situation. And it is mainly like the southern part of Italy, but then a few other of the city-states kind of in the north as well, kind of mixing it up a little bit with the other side of this, which is the Ghibellines. And you can see that monthly prestige 0.05 for the leader, and then being a member will give you noble and peasant satisfaction equilibrium, so kind of the opposite of the other side. And then monthly religious influence minus 0.10 because you're going against the Pope, and obviously he's not a big fan of that. You can invite new members, and again you can see the 12 members in this example. You've got Milan, Upper Bavaria, Genoa, Verona, and then similar to what we saw before, you can see the IO page for this. You can see the current leader. And again, we can see the map here, the members that are currently on this side of the Italian Wars. And then, as I was saying, it's mostly the northern realms here. And then you've got Bavaria as well. And then, as they're going to go into later, it does add other people as you get to like the Italian War side of things, which they are going to cover in the second half of this dev diary. So as you can see, Italy starts with these two divided factions with their own leaders, Naples for the Guelphs and Milan for the Ghibellines. 2 months after the start of the game, you'll get an event called the Political Landscape of Italy, which starts this situation. And then a few days after this, you'll get an event where you can realign which side of this you're on. So you don't have to stay on one side that like historically they were at this time. You can switch over to the other side if you want to. And you can see this here. You can say for the Holy Roman Emperor, side with the Pope, or let's not change anything if you just want to stay as you are, like historically in this event. But you can switch, which is great to see. And then the situation itself, you can see this here again, just a description of this if you're coming to the game new, or if you don't really know about history in Italy, the HRE, even some like French history, I guess, as well. You can get a little bit of an overview here about what's going on, what this was all about historically, and then which side you want to join as this plays out. You can see another map here. This is really the combination of the two previous ones. You can see the two sides here, one in kind of green, one in yellow. They do say here the colouring is going to change a little bit to make it stand out that little bit more. I would imagine maybe like a purpley colour for the Papal State side. And then the other side, I'm not too sure. Whatever colour they want to choose, it does kind of merge together a little bit as you see it currently. And then as this situation revolves around diplomacy, each faction will try to get the other Italian countries to join their faction, either by peace or, you know, doing it via the sword as well. And you can see that in the next UI. You can see the two sides. You've got the Pope on one side, and then you've got the Holy Roman Emperor Ludwig IV on the other side. And this is how this kind of situation plays out once it gets going. And there are some actions you can take here. You can leave the faction, request aid, sanction the papacy, petition for imperial support. And then as they mentioned, you can invite people. You can see that in this small tooltip here. These are a group of Italian states who align themselves with the interests of the Papal States in Italy. And then, of course, you could be inviting somebody to this. Or if you're not part of it, I guess somebody could come to you and say, hey, do you want to join this? and you would have to decide if you want to or not. And then as they mentioned, you can do this via warfare, and this is where you can literally just pull someone into the faction via warfare, and then they have to be part of it. I guess they get a cooldown, so they can't just immediately leave. But you can see here the breakdown of if you want to do that, what will happen, and then you can force this change, and you will see here, you do get antagonism, obviously. Naples joins this faction, we gain some prestige, they lose some prestige, and then again, I imagine they're forced to stay, otherwise they would just leave immediately. I presume there's like a 5-10 year cooldown. Who knows? We will see when we get to play the game. And then as we saw, there are some actions that you can take, and they are different depending on which side they are, although they are kind of the same. So there's leave faction, request aid, sanction the papacy, petition for imperial support if you're on the HRE side. If you're on the papal side, leave the faction, request aid, sanction the empire, support imperial rival, and then obviously you can decide if you want to do these or not, if you want to get very involved in this, or if you want to just kind of sit at the sidelines and just say, look, whatever, just figure it out between yourselves, and I'll just see what happens afterwards. And there are a couple of different ways this can play out. So to end the situation, you will need to have 100% progress for your faction. If the Age of Discovery starts in 1437 without one of the factions having won over the other, a stalemate will happen instead. You can see the end requirements here. You can see the Guelph progress as well, like how far they've progressed. As they said, you've got to get to 100% to kind of have your side win. If neither of you hit 100%, it is a stalemate, and there are those 3 different outcomes. So if the Guelphs win, all countries with a capital in Italy will be forced to leave the HRE. If the Ghibellines win, all countries except for Naples, Sicily, the Papal States, or the 2 Sicilies will be forced to join the HRE. And then as we discussed, if neither side wins by the Age of Discovery, whoever is in the Guelphs will either stay out or they will leave the HRE if they're currently a member, and then whoever is in the Ghibellines will stay in the HRE. So kind of a stalemate, nothing really changes that much as to what was happening previously, but they are the 3 different ways it can play out. And you can see the third option here, a stale conflict, and then we just say, okay, we lose 10 prestige, we lose 5 Republican tradition, and then that event will end, because there's another event that is coming quickly after it, and that is the Italian Wars. Is a situation that may be triggered if the Holy Roman Emperor or a French or Iberian foreign power attacks a country in the Italian region after the Age of Discovery has started. And what they define as one of these foreign powers is a great power in game terms, being of a kingdom rank or having at least 5 million population. So those 3 regions of the game, if they attack into Italy after the Age of Discovery, you will trigger this Italian war situation. And you can see an example of it here. War has come to Italy. The banners of foreign conquerors flock to usurp the great wealth held within our peninsula. Never before has our region fallen amid such a great power struggle. I would maybe disagree with that. I guess, maybe we're ignoring the Roman side of things. But anyway, that is what they're talking about in this event. And again, they have got that blue text, the historical reason for this event. And the die has been cast. And you can see if you choose that option, well, it's the only option actually. During this time, states in Italy will be able to defend themselves by joining the Italian League. Foreign countries may create their own foreign leagues in a bid to expand their influence in the region. Rivals and enemies of the foreign league leaders may intervene to assist the Italian leagues through war or aid them in the form of coin and men. Leaders of each league gain access to the dissolve their league peace treaty. And then similar to what we saw before, you then get an overview here of the Italian Wars, again, historically what happened here. Italy has prospered due to its position in Europe. Foreign trade, wealth, and the Renaissance have ushered in this great era of progression, but realms around Italy are looking to kind of take their chunk out of it. And this is really what this plays out as happened historically. And then you can see here in the situation UI, the Italian Wars, Foreign League victory, Italian League victory. There is one here, Chateau Villain. Doesn't that just mean villain of a house? Probably not, but anyway, let's not get into it. And then also King Istvan is also trying to get in here as well. So there are multiple leagues, as you can see here. So you can see the French League, the Iberian, the Holy Roman Empire. They're obviously on the invading side. And then there's the first Italian League, the second one, and the third one. And these are obviously kind of against each other as this plays out. But obviously, like the Iberian and the French, they will also kind of be fighting each other as well at the same time. So these are the different factions that can happen. You can see the main actions: join a league, create the Italian League, attract condottieri, and then send aid. And then on the map here, they do say this was forced through with console commands. And in this example, you can see Castile, France, they got involved. You can see Naples, Sicily, and then their vassals and things in the Aegean Sea. And then obviously you would play this out and see which side won. Would Italy prosper, or would one of these foreign realms come in and take over Italy in many ways? So as you can see, there's a mix of diplomacy and war in how you can attract other countries into your sphere, very similar to the other situation. You can either use diplomatic actions to invite them, or you can conquer them through force. The situation can end if either league controls at least 200 locations in Italy, or if after 50 years after the start of the Italian Wars, the foreign leagues don't have any locations in Italy. So if you kind of push them back out of Italy, then this situation will end after 50 years from it starting. And you can see here the end of the Italian Wars. Decades of struggle and unending strife to protect our region has come to a close under our mighty league. So this is if Italy wins. You gain 5 trust with all other members of the Italian League. You gain 20 prestige, and you gain victory in the Italian Wars for 15 years, which is a buff for your realm. And then another example they show here is what if France win despite fierce and unyielding resistance for decades. Italy now lies firmly and largely under our grasp as the French. So long live the ruler, plus 20 prestige, and then they also get victory in the Italian Wars for 10 years. So no matter which side wins, I guess unless it's a draw, you will get this modifier for everyone involved on the victorious side. So this gives you monthly army tradition 0.25, diplomatic reputation +2, and the one they show here is the version if Italy wins. But I think it's the same modifier. It doesn't say there's a different one. They both get this modifier. I'm kind of surprised it isn't different if a foreign realm wins or if Italy defends and they're victorious. I kind of thought you get different modifiers depending on which side you are, but it doesn't look like you do, or they don't show you the variation if it is France or Iberia or somebody. But that is what they're going to show today. And with that, that is the end of the dev diary. But this is our first look at the Italian flavor that is coming, or at least a good look at some of it anyway. They do say on Friday we're going to get the Tinto flavor on 2 Italian countries. That's going to be Milan and Naples. That's going to be fantastic to see the 2 different ways they're going to play out and what kind of things you can get up to. As always, this isn't everything that's coming to Italy. This is just some of the things coming for some of the people there. There's a bunch more flavor that they've not even talked about. I'm sure even for the 2 things today, there's events, things like that will play out that they haven't shown us, and we'll get to play that when the game does come out. But with that, we'll leave it there for today. So hit that like button if you've enjoyed today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. I'm covering all the news around EU5, and I also cover Crusader Kings 3 in a very similar manner. So if you enjoy my videos, there's a bunch of things coming in the near future. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you all next time.